Lucy Fisher had always been the girl everyone envied in high school in Jamaica. Her beautiful, smooth black skin and long, silky hair with beautiful, rare blue eyes made every man and boy fall for her. But everything changed when she moved to Korea for college. She was the only black girl in the school, and everyone took a turn to bully her. They'd purposely spill her meals, bump into her, boys deceived her into dating them. One day, they'd planned to gang up and beat her on her way home, but as they cornered her ready to hit her, Eunwoo, a Mafia lord feared by everyone, stopped and chased them off. Lucy hugged him, tears streaming down her cheeks, not knowing that single act had made Eunwoo fall deeply in love with her. Then he pulled her back and said, not as a question, but as a command, "You will come with me, and I'm going to make you so strong that those people will never think of hurting you." Hey, beautiful people. Before we dive into Lucy and Eunwoo's story, drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. Are you Team Lucy or Team Eunwoo? And if you're new here, subscribe because this is my first video and I need your support. Now let's get into this emotional roller coaster.
Part 1. Lucy's POV. Lucy didn't move. She couldn't. This stranger with the coldest eyes she'd ever seen had just saved her life, and now he was telling her to come with him like she had no choice in the matter. I don't even know you, she managed to whisper, pulling away from him. Eunwoo's expression didn't change. He was tall, impossibly handsome in a way that seemed almost unreal. His skin was a beautiful deep brown that caught the streetlight, and his eyes, there was something strange about them. Something she couldn't quite place. "My name is Eunwoo," he said simply. "And you're coming with me because if you go home tonight, they'll be waiting for you. They always wait." He was right. Lucy knew he was right. Her hands were still shaking from the fear of what almost happened. "Just for tonight," she heard herself say. "Just until it's safe." The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. Not quite a smile, but close. "Just for tonight," he repeated, though something in his tone suggested he didn't believe it. His car was sleek and black, the kind that screamed money and danger. Lucy climbed in, her heart pounding. What was she doing? Getting into a stranger's car? But then again, what choice did she have? The drive was silent except for the soft hum of the engine. Lucy stole glances at him from the corner of her eye. Everything about him was controlled, precise. The way he held the steering wheel, the way he breathed. Like he was holding something back. They pulled up to a building that looked more like a fortress than an apartment. Security nodded at Eunwoo without question, their eyes widening slightly when they saw Lucy. His penthouse was unexpected. Clean, minimalist, but there were small touches that surprised her. Books in different languages. A vinyl record player in the corner. A telescope by the window. "You can take the guest room," Eunwoo said, his voice breaking the silence. "Tomorrow, I'll have someone bring you clothes and anything else you need." "I have clothes at my apartment," Lucy protested. "No." The word was final. "You're not going back there." "Not yet." Something in Lucy snapped. She'd been pushed around for months now, and she wasn't about to let another person control her life, even if he had saved her. "You don't get to tell me what to do," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "I appreciate what you did tonight, but I'm not your prisoner." For the first time, real emotion flickered across Eunwoo's face. Surprise, maybe even respect. "No," he said quietly. "You're not my prisoner. But you're under my protection now, whether you like it or not. And people under my protection don't get hurt." "Why?" Lucy challenged. "Why do you even care?" Eunwoo was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes studying her face like he was memorizing every detail. "Because when you hugged me tonight," he said finally, "you weren't afraid of me." "Everyone is afraid of me enough not to touch me, Lucy Fisher. Everyone except you." The first week was strange. Eunwoo would disappear for hours, sometimes the whole day, and return late at night. Lucy tried not to think about where he went or what he did. She knew what he was. Everyone in Seoul knew about the Kang family. But during the times he was home, he was different. Gentle, almost. He'd order her favorite foods without asking what she liked. He'd leave books he thought she'd enjoy on the coffee table. He never invaded her space, never demanded anything. "You should eat," he'd say, placing a plate of jollof rice in front of her. Not Korean food. Jamaican food. Her food. How did you? Lucy would start, but he'd just shrug. I pay attention. It was the little things that started to crack her walls. The way he'd adjust the temperature because he noticed she was cold. The way he'd turn down the lights because bright light gave her headaches. The way he'd play old reggae songs on his record player because he heard her humming them once. But Lucy had learned not to trust kindness. Kindness, in her experience, always came with a price. What do you want from me? She asked him one night, finding him standing by the window, looking out at the city. Nothing you're not willing to give, he replied without turning around. That's not an answer. He finally looked at her, and there was something raw in his eyes. Something vulnerable. I want you to let me protect you. I want you to feel safe. I want. He paused, seeming to struggle with the words. I want to see you smile. Really smile. Not the fake one you give everyone else. Lucy felt her breath catch. You don't even know me. Then let me. The first time Eunwoo took her out, Lucy thought she was dreaming. He showed up at breakfast with a soft look in his eyes. Get dressed, he said. I want to show you something. I thought I was under protection, Lucy teased. Isn't it dangerous out there? Not when you're with me. They went to the National Museum of Korea. Lucy had always loved history, loved learning about different cultures, but she'd never had time to visit since moving here. Eunwoo walked beside her, his presence commanding, but not overwhelming. People gave them space, whether from fear or respect. Lucy wasn't sure. This is the gilt bronze incense burner, Eunwoo explained, stopping in front of an intricate piece. From the beach period. See how detailed it is? Every mountain, every creature carved with purpose. Lucy stared at him. You know about art? I know about beautiful things, he said, but he wasn't looking at the artifact anymore. He was looking at her. Her cheeks warmed, and she quickly turned back to the display. They spent hours there. Eunwoo knew something about almost every piece, telling her stories that weren't in the plaques. He made history come alive, made her forget for a while about the bullying, about the loneliness, about everything except this moment. When they stopped for tea at a traditional Hanok cafe, Lucy found herself actually relaxing. Thank you, she said softly. For today. This is just the beginning, Eunwoo replied, and there was a promise in his words that made her heart race. But reality had a way of crashing back in. One evening, Eunwoo came home different. There was blood on his shirt. Not his blood, Lucy realized with growing horror. What happened? She whispered. Don't worry about it, he said coldly, walking past her. But Lucy couldn't not worry. She followed him to his room, her heart pounding. Eunwoo, please. Talk to me. He spun around, and for the first time, she saw the darkness he usually kept hidden. His eyes had changed, looked almost red in the dim light. You want to know what happened? His voice was harsh. The boys who tried to hurt you? They planned to do it again. So I made sure they'll never think about touching you again. I made sure they'll never think about anything again. Lucy's blood ran cold. What are you saying? I'm saying I killed them, Lucy. All 3 of them. And I'd do it again. I'd kill anyone who even thinks about hurting you. She stepped back, her hand over her mouth. This was too much. This was. Don't look at me like that, Eunwoo's voice cracked. Don't look at me like I'm a monster. You killed people, Lucy's voice shook. I protected you. I didn't ask you to kill for me. The silence that followed was deafening. Eunwoo's shoulders sagged, and when he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. I know you didn't. But I can't. I can't control it when it comes to you. The thought of anyone hurting you, it makes me. He trailed off, running a hand through his hair. Lucy wanted to run. Every logical part of her brain screamed at her to leave, to get away from this dangerous man. But her heart saw the way his hands trembled, saw the fear in his eyes that she might leave him. I need time, she said finally. I need time to process this. Eunwoo nodded stiffly. Take all the time you need. But please don't leave. Not yet. 3 days passed. 3 days of awkward silences and careful distance. Eunwoo gave her space, but Lucy could feel his eyes on her, could sense his presence even when he wasn't in the room. On the 4th day, Lucy found him on the balcony at dawn. He looked tired, defeated in a way she'd never seen before. I'm not normal, he said without preamble. I never have been. There are things about me, Lucy, things that would scare you more than what I did to those boys. Like what? Lucy found herself asking, moving to stand beside him. He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I'm not entirely human. I'm something else. Something old. And when I care about someone, when I love someone. He stopped, swallowing hard. I become obsessed. Possessive. Dangerous. Are you telling me you love me? Lucy's voice came out softer than she intended. Eunwoo turned to face her fully, and there was such raw honesty in his expression that it took her breath away. I'm telling you that from the moment you hugged me, crying and scared and still so brave, you became my entire world. And I don't know how to love halfway, Lucy. I don't know how to care without consuming. So yes, I love you. I'm completely, utterly, obsessively in love with you. And I understand if that terrifies you. Lucy's mind raced. She should be terrified. She should run. But I don't believe in love, she heard herself say. Every time I thought I found it, I got hurt. People here made me think they cared, just to humiliate me. Love has only ever brought me pain. I know, we said gently. And I'm not asking you to love me back. I'm not even asking you to trust me. I need you to let me try. Let me show you what real love looks like. Let me prove that not everyone will hurt you. And if I can't? If I never love you back? Then I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you're happy anyway. Something in Lucy's chest cracked open. Tears spilled down her cheeks before she could stop them. I'm so tired of being afraid, she whispered. Eunwoo reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and wiped her tears with his thumb. Then let me be strong for both of us. Just for a while. Until you remember how to be strong again. Things changed after that night. Not quickly, but gradually, like ice melting in spring. Eunwoo kept his promise. He took her places, showed her soul through new eyes. They went to Latte World, and Lucy laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months, as they rode the Eurodrop. You're screaming louder than me, she teased, and Eunwoo's genuine laugh was the most beautiful sound she'd ever heard. They visited Bakshin Hanok village, walking through the traditional houses hand in hand. Well, Eunwoo had reached for her hand tentatively, and Lucy, surprising herself, had let him take it. In the old days, Eunwoo said as they walked, people believed that if you walked through here with someone, you'd be connected to them forever. That sounds like a threat, Lucy joked, but she didn't let go of his hand. Or a promise, Eunwoo replied softly. He took her to cooking classes where they made tteokbokki together. Lucy accidentally splashed sauce on his expensive shirt, and instead of getting angry, Eunwoo had just smiled and dabbed some on her nose in revenge. Your trouble, Lucy Fisher, he'd said, his eyes warm. You knew that when you picked me up, she'd replied. Every date, every moment, Eunwoo was patient. He never pushed for more than she was willing to give. When they'd sit close on the couch watching movies, he'd wait for her to lean into him first. When they'd say goodnight, he'd look at her lips, but never close the distance unless she wanted him to. Why are you so patient with me? Lucy asked one night. Because you're worth waiting for, Eunwoo said simply. 100 years wouldn't be too long. But the darkness was always there, lurking beneath the surface. Lucy started noticing things. The way Eunwoo never ate regular food around her. The way he'd disappear some nights and come back looking different. Satisfied in a way that unsettled her. One night, she couldn't sleep. She found Eunwoo in his study, and what she saw made her freeze. His eyes were glowing red, not metaphorically but literally. And his teeth, those weren't normal canine teeth. You're a vampire, Lucy breathed. Eunwoo's eyes immediately returned to normal, but the damage was done. He stood slowly, carefully, like approaching a frightened animal. Yes. How long were you going to hide this? Forever, if I could, he admitted. I didn't want to lose you. So you lied. I never lied. I just didn't tell you everything. Lucy laughed, but there was no humor in it. This is insane. Vampires aren't real. They're not. Lucy. No. She backed away. This is too much. The killing, the obsession, and now this? What's next, Eunwoo? What else haven't you told me? I'm still me, Eunwoo said desperately. I'm still the person who took you to the museum. Who made you laugh at the amusement park? Who? Who drinks blood? Who kills people? Who isn't even human? Each word was a dagger, and Lucy could see them landing. But she was hurt too, confused and overwhelmed and scared. I need air, she said, grabbing her jacket. Lucy, it's 3 in the morning. I don't care. She left, ignoring his calls, and just walked. She walked until her feet hurt, until the sun started to rise, until she found herself at a park bench with tears streaming down her face. How had her life become this? A vampire mafia lord who killed for her and claimed to love her obsessively. It sounded like a bad novel, not her reality. But even as she thought it, she couldn't deny what she felt. Somewhere along the way, between the museum dates and the cooking classes and the gentle touches, she'd started to fall for him too. And that terrified her more than anything else. Her phone buzzed. A text from Eunwoo. Asterisk, I'm sorry. For everything. For not telling you, for scaring you, for being what I am. But I'm not sorry for loving you. I'll be here when you're ready to come back. If you're ready, asterisk. Lucy stared at the message for a long time. She didn't go back immediately. She spent the day at a cafe, thinking, processing. A part of her wanted to pack her bags and leave Korea entirely. Start over somewhere new where there were no bullies and no vampire mafia lords. But another part of her, a growing, insistent part, couldn't imagine life without Eunwoo now. Without his quiet presence, his patient understanding, the way he looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. When evening came, she found herself walking back to the penthouse. Her hands shook as she used the key he'd given her. Eunwoo was exactly where she'd left him, in his study, looking like he hadn't moved in hours. Lucy, he breathed, standing up so fast he knocked over his chair. I have questions, she said. And I need you to answer them honestly. All of them. Anything. They talked through the night. Eunwoo told her everything. How he'd been turned centuries ago. How he'd built his empire. How being a vampire meant intense emotions, especially when it came to love. How he fed, how he controlled it, what it meant for them. I would never feed from you, he promised. I would never put you in danger like that. But you can't control yourself when it comes to protecting me, Lucy pointed out. You killed those boys without hesitation. I know. Eunwoo's voice was heavy with regret. And I wish I could promise it won't happen again. But if someone tries to hurt you, Lucy, I can't. The vampire in me won't let it go. You're mine to protect. I'm not yours, Lucy said, but her voice lacked conviction. Eunwoo's eyes met hers. Aren't you? The question hung between them. Lucy thought about the past few weeks. The way she'd started looking forward to seeing him. The way her heart would race when he smiled. The way she felt safe for the first time in months when she was with him. I'm scared, she admitted. I'm scared of how much I'm starting to care about you. I'm scared of what you are, what you do. I'm scared that if I give you my heart, you'll destroy me worse than anyone else ever has. Eunwoo crossed the distance between them in 2 strides, cupping her face gently. I would rather die than hurt you, he said fiercely. I would rather walk into the sun and let it turn me to ash than see you cry because of me. You are the only good thing in my dark world, Lucy. The only light. And I will spend every moment proving to you that your heart is safe with me. How can you promise that? Because I'm giving you mine first. It's yours, Lucy. Whether you want it or not. Whether you ever love me back or not. My heart, my life, my immortal soul, it all belongs to you. Lucy felt tears streaming down her face again. When had she become such a crier? I don't know how to do this, she whispered. I don't know how to love someone like you. Then we'll figure it out together, Eunwoo said, his thumbs gently wiping away her tears. One day at a time. One moment at a time. I'm not asking for forever right now, Lucy. I'm just asking for today. And tomorrow. And the day after that. Until one day, maybe, you'll trust me with forever. Lucy closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. This was crazy. All of it was completely insane. But, okay, she breathed. One day at a time. To be continued in part 2, Eunwoo's POV. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me what you think. Do you trust Eunwoo? Should Lucy give him a chance? Let me know below. Part 2 coming soon, where we get inside Eunwoo's head and see just how deep his obsession really goes. The story continues with Part 2 from Eunwoo's perspective, showing his internal struggles, his vampire nature, and his desperate attempt to be worthy of Lucy's love despite his darkness. The conclusion brings them together in a powerful emotional climax, where Lucy finally opens her heart and Eunwoo proves that true love can exist even in the darkest of souls.
Part 2. Eunwoo's POV. Eunwoo had lived for 243 years. In all that time, he'd never believed in fate, never believed in destiny or soulmates or any of that romantic nonsense humans convince themselves of to make their short lives meaningful. Until he saw Lucy Fisher being cornered in that alley. He'd been passing by, on his way to handle business that would have ended in blood regardless. But then he heard her heartbeat, rapid, terrified, fighting to stay brave even as fear consumed her. And something in him had snapped into place, like a key turning in a lock he didn't know existed. When those boys surrounded her, when he saw the tears streaming down her beautiful face, Eunwoo felt something he hadn't felt in over a century. Pure, uncontrolled rage. He'd moved without thinking, his vampire speed making him a blur. The boys scattered like roaches when light hit them, and they were lucky he'd shown restraint. Lucky that killing them in front of Lucy would have traumatized her. He'd saved that for later. But then Lucy had done something that changed everything. She'd hugged him. This stranger she didn't know, this dangerous man who'd just threatened to rip people apart, and she'd wrapped her arms around him and cried into his chest like he was safety instead of danger. No one had touched Eunwoo with anything other than fear in decades. No one had looked at him and seen refuge. In that moment, standing in that alley with this trembling girl in his arms, Kang Eunwoo fell completely, irrevocably, obsessively in love. The first night Lucy stayed at his penthouse, Eunwoo didn't sleep. He couldn't. He stood outside her door listening to her breathe, making sure she was safe, making sure she was real. His second-in-command, Min-sik, had called 3 times about urgent business. Eunwoo ignored every call. Nothing was more important than the girl sleeping in his guest room. "You're being insane," his inner voice warned. "You don't even know her." But that was the thing about vampires. When they bonded, when they found their mate, it wasn't gradual. It was instant, absolute, and completely consuming. Lucy Fisher was his. She just didn't know it yet. The next morning, Eunwoo had watched her wake up, had seen her confusion when she remembered where she was. He'd ordered breakfast, making sure to include Jamaican options because he'd spent half the night researching everything about her. Lucy Fisher, age 24, from Kingston, Jamaica. Scholarship student studying international relations. No family in Korea. No real friends either, based on the surveillance footage he'd already obtained from her university. The bullying had been going on for 8 months. 8 months of his Lucy being tormented, and he hadn't known, hadn't been there to stop it. That would change. "I made breakfast," he'd said, keeping his voice neutral even though his heart was pounding. Could she hear it? Did she know what she did to him? "You didn't have to," Lucy had replied softly. "I wanted to." Those 3 words held more meaning than she could possibly understand. Eunwoo never did anything he didn't want to do. He was a vampire, a Mafia lord, one of the most powerful beings in Seoul. People bent to his will, not the other way around. But for Lucy, he'd bend the entire world if it would make her smile. The hardest part was controlling himself. Every instinct screamed at him to claim her, to mark her, to make sure everyone knew she belonged to him. But Eunwoo knew he couldn't. Lucy had been hurt too many times. She needed gentleness, patience, time. Things Eunwoo didn't have much experience with. "You're staring again," Min-sik said one evening when Lucy was asleep and Eunwoo had finally agreed to a meeting. "I'm observing," Eunwoo corrected. "You're obsessed. The entire organization is talking about it." Kang Eunwoo, the vampire who feels nothing, suddenly has a human girl living in his penthouse. They should focus on their work instead of gossip. Min-sik sighed. "You killed 3 college boys last week. Messily. That's not like you. You're always controlled. They touched what's mine. She's not yours, Eunwoo. She's a person, not a possession." Eunwoo's eyes flashed red. "Don't tell me what she is." Min-sik raised his hands in surrender. "I'm just saying, be careful. Humans are fragile. And this one, she's been through a lot. If you push too hard, you'll break her." Eunwoo knew he was right. That's why every day was torture. Being close to Lucy but not touching her the way he wanted to. Watching her move through his space but not being able to pull her into his arms and never let go. The vampire in him was going insane. But he'd meant what he said. He'd wait. Even if it killed him. Taking Lucy to the museum had been a calculated risk. Eunwoo wanted to show her he was more than the monster she probably thought he was. He wanted her to see that he appreciated beauty, culture, history. That he could be the kind of man who took her on dates and made her happy. What he hadn't calculated was how beautiful she'd look standing in front of those ancient artifacts, her blue eyes wide with wonder, her smile genuine for the first time since he'd met her. "This is amazing," she'd breathed, and Eunwoo had thought, "You're amazing." He'd spent decades collecting knowledge, visiting every museum in every country, learning languages and arts and history. All of it had been to pass the time, to fill the endless void of immortality. But sharing it with Lucy gave it meaning. "See how detailed it is?" he'd explained, standing close enough to smell her jasmine shampoo. Every mountain, every creature carved with purpose. She'd looked at him then, really looked at him, and asked, "You know about art?" "I know about beautiful things," he'd replied, and he'd been talking about her. The way her cheeks had flushed, the way she'd quickly looked away. It had taken every ounce of his control not to kiss her right there. Later, at the cafe, watching her sip tea and relax for the first time in months, Eunwoo made himself a promise. He would give her 1,000 more days like this. 1,000 more moments of peace and happiness. Whatever it took. But peace was never meant for creatures like him. When Eunwoo discovered that the same boys were planning another attack, something primal had taken over. The vampire, the predator, the possessive mate who would burn the world before letting harm come to what was his. He'd found them at a bar, drunk and laughing about what they wanted to do to Lucy. The details they described made Eunwoo see red. "Please," one of them had begged when Eunwoo cornered them in the alley. "We were just joking. You don't get to say her name," Eunwoo had growled, and then he'd stopped being human entirely. The kill had been brutal, messy, satisfying in a way that should have disturbed him. But all he could think was, they'll never hurt her again. She's safe. She's mine. She's safe. He'd come home covered in their blood, high on the violence, only to see Lucy's face and remember, she wasn't like him. She didn't understand this world, this darkness. "What happened?" she'd whispered, and Eunwoo had tried to lie, try to hide it. But he'd never been good at lying to her. "I killed them, Lucy. All 3 of them. And I'd do it again." The look on her face had shattered something in him. She'd looked at him like he was a monster. And maybe he was. Maybe he'd always been one, and had just forgotten until her light reminded him of his darkness. "Don't look at me like that," he'd begged, hating how weak he sounded. "Don't look at me like I'm a monster." But what else could he be? He was a vampire who killed without remorse, who built an empire on fear and blood, who was so obsessed with a human girl that he'd murdered for her without hesitation. When Lucy said she needed time, it had felt like dying. The 3 days she avoided him were the longest of Eunwoo's existence. He'd lived through wars, plagues, the fall of dynasties. He'd been tortured, starved, left for dead. None of it compared to the agony of being in the same space as Lucy, but not being able to touch her, talk to her, explain. Minseek had found him on the 2nd day, staring at Lucy's closed door like a lovesick fool. "This is pathetic," his friend had said, not unkindly. "You're Kong Eunwoo. You don't pine." "I'm not pining. You've been standing here for 6 hours. I'm keeping guard." "You're being creepy." Maybe he was. But Eunwoo couldn't help it. The bond had fully formed now, at least on his end. Lucy was his mate, whether she accepted it or not. And mates didn't leave each other alone. Mates protected, obsessed, consumed. On the 4th morning, he'd been on the balcony watching the sunrise and wishing he could see it with Lucy when she'd appeared beside him. His dead heart had literally stuttered. "I'm not normal," he'd told her, because she deserved honesty. "I never have been." And then he'd told her everything. About being a vampire, about the intensity of mate bonds, about how loving her wasn't a choice, but a fundamental shift in his entire existence. "Are you telling me you love me?" she'd asked. "I'm telling you that from the moment you hugged me, crying and scared, and still so brave, you became my entire world." It was the truth. The absolute, terrifying truth. Lucy Fisher had become his son, and he was a creature who'd burn if he got too close, but couldn't stay away. When she'd started crying, telling him she didn't believe in love, Eunwoo had wanted to hunt down every person who'd ever hurt her and make them suffer. But violence wasn't what she needed. She needed patience, gentleness, time, things that went against every vampire instinct he had. The next few weeks were the sweetest torture Eunwoo had ever experienced. He took her on dates, carefully planned to make her happy. Latte World, where her laughter on the rides made him feel almost human again. Bukshin Hanok Village, where he'd held her hand and felt like the luckiest creature alive. Cooking classes where she'd splash sauce on him and he'd thought, I could do this forever. Every moment with Lucy was precious. Every smile she gave him was a gift. Every time she leaned into him while watching movies, Eunwoo felt like he was winning some impossible war. But the vampire in him was never satisfied. It wanted more. It wanted everything. It wanted to mark her, claim her, make sure every being in Seoul knew she was his and his alone. You're holding back, Min-sik observed during one of their meetings. I have to. It's eating you alive. I can see it. When was the last time you fed properly? Eunwoo couldn't remember. Food didn't appeal to him anymore. The only thing he craved was Lucy, and that was the one thing he couldn't have. I'm fine. You're starving yourself. That's dangerous. You know what happens when vampires don't feed. Eunwoo did know. They became unpredictable, violent, unable to control their instincts. But he couldn't feed in front of Lucy, couldn't let her see that part of him. Not yet. I'll handle it, he'd said, and Min-sik had just shaken his head. The night Lucy discovered what he was, Eunwoo had been feeding in his study. Not from a person. He'd long ago switched to blood bags to maintain control. But his eyes glowed when he fed, his fangs extended, and he looked every bit the monster he tried to hide. He'd sensed her presence too late. You're a vampire, she breathed, and Eunwoo's world had tilted. This was it. This was the moment she'd run, leave him, confirm that someone like him could never deserve someone like her. Yes, he'd admitted, because what else could he say? But then she'd asked if he'd been planning to hide it forever, and Eunwoo had answered honestly, forever, if I could. I didn't want to lose you. The fight that followed had been inevitable. Lucy listing all his sins, the killing, the obsession, his inhuman nature. Each accusation had been true, and Eunwoo had no defense except the truth. I'm still me, he'd said desperately, watching her slip away. I'm still the person who took you to the museum. But was he? Could the monster who ripped people apart also be the man who made her laugh? When she'd left, Eunwoo had stood frozen in his penthouse, truly afraid for the first time in centuries. What if she didn't come back? Min-sik found him in his study hours later, still standing in the same spot. She knows, Eunwoo said flatly. And she left. She looked at me like I was a monster, and she left. Are you going to go after her? No. The word tasted like ash. She asked for space. I have to give it to her. Even if it kills you? Even if it kills me. Min-sik was quiet for a moment. Then, you really love her. With everything I am. Everything I've ever been. Eunwoo's voice broke. She's the only good thing in 200 years of darkness. And I've ruined it. Maybe not. Give her time. But time was torture. Every minute Lucy was gone felt like an eternity. Eunwoo tracked her phone. He couldn't help himself, and saw she was at a park. Safe, but alone. Thinking. Probably realizing she was better off without him. He'd texted her an apology, then spent the rest of the day and night in his study, staring at the door and hoping, praying to gods he didn't believe in that she'd come back. When Lucy returned that evening, Eunwoo had been so relieved he'd nearly collapsed. Lucy, he'd breathed, knocking over his chair in his haste to stand. I have questions, she'd said, and Eunwoo would have answered 1,000 questions if it meant she'd stay. They'd talk through the night. Eunwoo told her everything he'd been hiding, the full truth about vampires, about mate bonds, about why he couldn't control himself when it came to her safety. You're mine to protect, he'd said, and when she'd challenged him, I'm not yours, Eunwoo had asked the question that had been burning in his mind. Aren't you? Because in every way that mattered, she was. She was his mate, his obsession, his reason for existing. And he was hers too, whether she knew it or not. When Lucy admitted she was scared, that she didn't know how to love someone like him, Eunwoo had crossed the distance between them and cupped her beautiful face. I would rather die than hurt you, he'd said, meaning every word. I would rather walk into the sun and let it turn me to ash than see you cry because of me. And he meant it. Lucy's happiness mattered more than his immortal life. I'm giving you mine first, he'd continued, pouring out his heart. It's yours, Lucy, whether you want it or not. My heart, my life, my immortal soul, it all belongs to you. When she'd agreed to try, to take it one day at a time, Eunwoo had felt something he hadn't felt in 2 centuries, hope. The next few weeks existed in a strange, beautiful limbo. Lucy was trying. Eunwoo could see it in the way she'd reach for his hand first now, the way she'd smile when she saw him, the way she'd started to trust him. But there was still a wall between them. A hesitation. She was protecting her heart, and Eunwoo understood, but God, it was killing him. He wanted more. Needed more. The vampire in him was getting harder to control. Being close to Lucy without fully claiming her was like starving while sitting at a feast. Every touch, every smile, every moment together made him crave her more intensely. You need to feed. Min-sik insisted one night after a particularly difficult meeting where Eunwoo had nearly lost control. I am feeding. Properly. From a source. The blood bags aren't enough anymore. I'm fine. You're not. And if you lose control around Lucy, I won't. Eunwoo's voice was sharp. I would never hurt her. Not intentionally. But vampires who don't feed properly become unpredictable. You know this. Eunwoo did know. But the thought of feeding from someone else, of being that intimate with anyone who wasn't Lucy, felt wrong. Like a betrayal. I'll handle it, he said again. But even he didn't believe it anymore. Things came to a head 3 weeks after Lucy had agreed to try. They'd been watching a movie. Lucy curled into Eunwoo's side in a way that felt natural now. Her scent, jasmine and vanilla, and something uniquely her, was driving him insane. Eunwoo, she'd said softly. Can I ask you something? Anything. Why haven't you tried to kiss me? The question made Eunwoo's entire body go rigid. He'd thought about kissing Lucy approximately 10,000 times. Had dreamed about it, craved it, obsessed over it. Because I'm waiting for you to be ready, he managed to say. Lucy shifted, turning to look at him. What if I'm ready now? Eunwoo's control snapped like a rubber band pulled too tight. Lucy, he growled, his eyes flashing red despite his best efforts. You don't know what you're asking. Then show me. It was an invitation and a challenge, and Eunwoo was too weak to resist anymore. He kissed her, and it was everything. Lightning and fire, and coming home all at once. Lucy's lips were soft, hesitant at first, then responding with a hunger that matched his own. Eunwoo kept the kiss gentle even though every instinct screamed at him to deepen it, claim it, mark her as his. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Lucy's eyes were wide and her lips were swollen. Wow, she whispered. Wow. Eunwoo agreed, his voice rough. Then Lucy smiled. That real, genuine smile he'd been trying to earn, and said, I think I'm falling for you, Kong Eunwoo. If Eunwoo still had a functioning heart, it would have stopped. Say that again, he demanded. I'm falling for you. I don't want to be. I'm still scared, but I am. You make me feel safe and seen and wanted. Not for how I look, but for who I am. You are wanted, Eunwoo said fiercely, pulling her close. You're everything, Lucy. Everything I never knew I needed. Everything I don't deserve, but can't live without. You keep saying you don't deserve me. Because I don't. You're light and goodness and strength. I'm darkness and death and... Lucy pressed her finger to his lips, silencing him. You're also patient and kind and gentle. You're the person who researched Jamaican food to make me feel at home. Who takes me to museums and amusement parks. Who looks at me like I'm the most precious thing in the world. She paused. You're not just your darkness, Eunwoo. You're more than what you've done. Eunwoo felt something wet on his cheeks and realized he was crying. He hadn't cried in over a century, had forgotten he even could. I love you, he said, because she needed to hear it. I love you so much it terrifies me. You've become my entire world, Lucy Fisher. And I will spend every day of my immortal life trying to be worthy of you. You already are, Lucy whispered, and then she kissed him again. But loving Lucy came with consequences Eunwoo hadn't anticipated. His obsession grew stronger, not weaker. Every moment she was out of his sight, he worried. Every man who looked at her made him want to commit violence. Every potential threat sent him into a protective frenzy. You followed me to class, Lucy said one afternoon, her tone somewhere between exasperated and amused. I was in the area. Eunwoo, your office is on the other side of Seoul. He had no good excuse. I wanted to make sure you were safe. There are security guards. Cameras. It's a university, not a war zone. There are threats everywhere, Eunwoo insisted, pulling her close. People who might want to hurt you to get to me. People who might see how beautiful you are in. Eunwoo. Lucy's voice was firm. You can't follow me everywhere. I need some space to breathe. The word space made Eunwoo's blood run cold. Are you asking me to leave you alone? I'm asking you to trust me. To trust that I can take care of myself sometimes. But you're mine to protect, Eunwoo said, the words coming out more possessive than he intended. Lucy pulled back, studying his face. I'm not a possession, Eunwoo. I'm a person. Your girlfriend, yes. But still my own person. I know that. I do. But the vampire in me, Eunwoo struggled to explain. It doesn't understand boundaries when it comes to you. It just knows, mate. Protect. Keep safe. Then you need to teach it, Lucy said gently. Because I can't be in a relationship where I'm constantly monitored. That's not love, that's control. Her words hit him like a physical blow. I would never try to control you. You're doing it now? Following me, tracking my phone. Yes, I know about that. Making decisions about my safety without consulting me. Lucy took his hands. I know you mean well. I know it comes from love. But Eunwoo, I need you to trust me. Eunwoo wanted to argue. To explain that she didn't understand how dangerous the world was, how many people would hurt her if given the chance. But looking into her blue eyes, he knew she was right. He was being controlling, obsessive, exactly what she was afraid of. I'll try, he said finally. I'll try to give you space. But Lucy, you have to understand. If something happened to you, I wouldn't survive it. Literally. Vampires who lose their mates don't. We don't continue. Lucy's expression softened. Nothing's going to happen to me. You can't promise that. No. But I can promise I'll be careful. And I can promise that I'm choosing to be with you. Every day, I'm choosing you, Eunwoo. But you have to let me choose. You can't force it. Eunwoo tried. God, he tried so hard. He stopped tracking her phone, even though it made him anxious. He didn't follow her to class, even though every instinct screamed at him to make sure she was safe. He gave her space, even though it felt like cutting off his own limbs. But the strain was showing. You look terrible, Min-sik said bluntly one evening. Thank you for your honesty, Eunwoo replied dryly. When's the last time you fed? Yesterday. From a bag. When's the last time you fed from a source? Eunwoo was silent. That's what I thought. You're starving yourself, and it's going to end badly. I can't, Eunwoo said quietly. Feeding is intimate. It feels like cheating. It's survival. And Lucy would understand that. Would she? She's already worried I'm too controlling, too obsessive. If I tell her I need to drink human blood regularly to stay sane, how do you think she'll react? Min-sik sighed. You need to tell her the truth. All of it. Including the fact that without proper feeding, you're a danger to everyone around you. Including her. The thought of being a danger to Lucy made Eunwoo's blood run cold. I would never. Not intentionally. But vampires who don't feed become unpredictable. Violent. You know this. Eunwoo did know. He'd seen it happen to others. Had once been that vampire himself, before he learned control. I'll talk to her, he said finally. That night, Eunwoo found Lucy curled up on the couch reading. Can we talk? He asked. She looked up, immediately sensing something was wrong. Of course. What's going on? Eunwoo sat beside her, trying to find the words. I need to tell you something about being a vampire. About feeding. Lucy closed her book, giving him her full attention. I told you I feed from blood bags, Eunwoo continued. And I do. But it's not enough. It's like living on crackers when you need a full meal. It sustains you, but barely. What are you saying? I'm saying I need to feed properly. From a source. And I've been putting it off because it felt wrong, like I'd be betraying you somehow. But Min-sik's right. If I don't feed soon, I'll lose control. And I can't risk that around you. Lucy was quiet for a long moment, processing. When you say feed from a source. From a person. I have volunteers who work for me. People who consent to it. It's not romantic or sexual. It's just feeding. But it is intimate in a way. Would you enjoy it? The question surprised him. I would enjoy not starving, yes. But Lucy, you have to understand. Feeding from someone isn't the same as being with them. It's mechanical. Necessary. Like eating. But you said it's intimate. It can be. If there are feelings involved. But there aren't. There never will be. You're my mate, Lucy. You're the only person I want in that way. Lucy stood, pacing the room. Eunwoo watched her, his anxiety growing with each silent second. I need you to be honest with me, she finally said. Is this something you have to do to survive? Yes. And if you don't, you'll become dangerous? Yes. Then do it. Lucy turned to face him. Feed from whoever you need to. I trust you. The relief that flooded through Eunwoo was overwhelming. You trust me. I'm trying to. And you've been honest with me about this, which I appreciate. She paused. Just promise me it won't become more than feeding. I promise, Eunwoo said fervently, crossing the room to pull her into his arms. You're the only one I love, Lucy. The only one I'll ever love. This is just survival. Lucy nodded against his chest. Okay, then we'll figure it out. Together. After feeding properly for the first time in weeks, Eunwoo felt more like himself. The constant edge of hunger was gone, replaced by clarity and control. But it also made him realize how much he'd been holding back with Lucy. Now that he wasn't starving, the bond felt stronger, clearer. He could sense her emotions, her presence. When she was happy, he felt lighter. When she was sad, it was like a physical ache. The bond is completing, Minseek observed. Soon, it'll be permanent. What does that mean? It means you'll be connected forever. Her emotions will be yours will be hers. You'll always know where she is, how she's feeling. And if something happens to her, I know, Eunwoo said quietly. I won't survive it. Does she know that you're bonding to her? Not yet. You need to tell her. She deserves to know what she's getting into. Eunwoo knew Minseek was right. But he was terrified. What if knowing about the bond scared Lucy away? What if she decided it was too much, too permanent, too intense? But he'd promised her honesty. And he'd meant it. Lucy, Eunwoo said one evening as they watched the sunset from his balcony. There's something else I need to tell you about vampires. About mate bonds. Lucy turned to him, curious. Okay. When a vampire finds their mate, we bond with them. It's instinctual, not a choice. And that bond grows stronger over time until it becomes permanent. Permanent how? We become connected. I can sense your emotions, know where you are. And you'll eventually feel the same with me. We'll be. He struggled for the right word. Linked. Forever. Lucy's eyes widened. Forever. Yes. And if something happens to you, if you die, I won't survive it. The bond is that strong. That's a lot of pressure, Eunwoo. I know. And I'm not trying to pressure you. I just need you to understand what being with me means. It's not casual. It's not temporary. When a vampire bonds, it's absolute. Lucy was quiet, and Eunwoo's heart sank. Are you saying we're already bonded? She finally asked. We're bonding. The process started the night I met you. Every moment we spend together makes it stronger. Eventually, it'll be complete, and then, forever, Lucy finished. Forever. She turned back to the sunset, her expression thoughtful. Eunwoo waited, terrified, for her response. I'm 24, Lucy said quietly. I haven't even finished college. I haven't traveled the world or figured out my career, or anything really. And you're telling me that being with you means forever? That we're already connected in a way I can't undo? Yes, Eunwoo admitted. And I understand if that's too much. If you want to leave. I don't want to leave, Lucy interrupted. I'm just processing. This is huge, Eunwoo. This isn't just dating. This is eternal. For me, yes. For you, it's whatever you want it to be. You're human. You have a choice. Do I? If you'll die without me. The question hit home. That's not your responsibility. My life, my survival, that's not on you, Lucy. If this is too much, if you want out, I'll find a way to. To what? Kill yourself slowly. To let you go, Eunwoo said firmly. Because your happiness, your freedom, that matters more than my life. Lucy stared at him for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She laughed. You're impossible, she said, shaking her head. You're completely, utterly impossible. You tell me you'll die without me, but also that my happiness matters more than your life. You're obsessed with me, but willing to let me go. You're a vampire mafia lord who looks at me like I hung the moon. Is that bad? It's insane, Lucy said. But she was smiling. But I guess I'm insane too, because I don't want to leave. Even knowing all this, even knowing forever is a real possibility, I want to stay. Eunwoo's relief was palpable. You do? I do. But Eunwoo, I need you to understand something too. I'm scared. I'm terrified of how fast this is moving, how intense everything is with you. And I need you to be patient with me. I need time to catch up to where you already are. I'll give you all the time in the world, Eunwoo promised. Even if it takes years. Even if it takes decades. Centuries. I have nothing but time, Lucy, and I want to spend all of it with you. Lucy leaned into him, and Eunwoo wrapped his arms around her, holding her like she was the most precious thing in existence. Because she was. The next few months were the happiest of Eunwoo's existence. Lucy grew more comfortable with him, more open. She'd kiss him without hesitation now, curl into his side while watching movies, tell him about her day with excitement instead of reservation. The bond continued to strengthen. Eunwoo could feel her presence like a warm glow in his chest, could sense when she was happy or sad or stressed. And slowly, Lucy started to feel it too. I had the weirdest dream last night, she mentioned one morning over breakfast. Oh, I dreamed I was you, or seeing through your eyes. I was in a meeting, and Minseek was there, and you were talking about shipments or something. She paused, tilting her head. And when I woke up, I just knew you were awake too, even though you were in your study. Eunwoo set down his coffee carefully. The bond is getting stronger. You're starting to sense me the way I sense you. Is that normal? For mates, yes. Eventually, we'll be completely in tune with each other. Lucy considered this. So you'll know when I'm lying? I already know when you're lying, Eunwoo said with a small smile. Your heartbeat changes. That's cheating. That's being a vampire. She threw a piece of toast at him, and Eunwoo caught it easily, laughing. These moments, playful, domestic, normal, were everything he'd never thought he'd have. But darkness has a way of finding those who live in it. Eunwoo had enemies. Decades of being a mafia lord meant he'd made countless people angry, hurt, vengeful. He'd always been careful to keep his business separate from his personal life. But now he had a personal life, and people were starting to notice. There's been chatter, Minseek reported during a meeting, about the girl you're protecting. People are curious. Some are opportunistic. Eunwoo's expression went cold. Who? The Choi family, mainly. They've been wanting to move into your territory for years. They think taking Lucy would give them leverage. They think wrong. Eunwoo, you need to be smart about this. If you react too violently, it'll only confirm how important she is to you. It'll paint a target on her back. There's already a target on her back, Eunwoo said flatly. The moment I claimed her, she became a target. So now I need to make sure everyone knows. Touching her means death. Not quick death. Not merciful death. The kind of death that makes people tell stories to scare their children. Minseek sighed. This is exactly what I was worried about. You're letting your obsession cloud your judgment. My obsession? Eunwoo's eyes flashed red. She's my mate. My everything. Protecting her isn't an obsession. It's the only thing that matters. And what does Lucy think about you declaring war over her? That made Eunwoo pause. Lucy had already expressed concerns about his overprotectiveness. How would she react to him slaughtering an entire crime family to keep her safe? But the alternative, letting threats exist, letting people think they could use her against him, was unacceptable. I'll handle the Choi family quietly, Eunwoo said finally. They'll disappear. An accident. Nothing that traces back to me or puts Lucy in danger. And when the next threat comes, and the one after that, I'll eliminate them too. All of them. Until everyone in Seoul knows that Lucy Fisher is untouchable. Eunwoo tried to hide his increased security measures from Lucy, but she noticed anyway. There are more guards, she said one evening. And that black car that's been following me to class, that's yours too, isn't it? There was no point in lying. Yes. Why? Because there are people who might try to hurt you to get to me. Lucy's expression hardened. What did you do? Nothing yet. But there's a family, the Choice, who think taking you would give them leverage over me. So I'm making sure they can't get close to you. By surrounding me with guards? By having me followed constantly? By keeping you safe? Eunwoo insisted. This isn't safe. This is suffocating. Lucy stood up, agitation clear in every line of her body. We talked about this, Eunwoo. You promised to give me space. That was before there were active threats against you. There will always be threats. You're a mafia lord. That's the life you chose. But I didn't choose this. I didn't ask to be a target. Her words cut deep because they were true. Lucy had never asked for any of this. She'd just wanted to go to college, make a life for herself. And then Eunwoo had crashed into her world and made her a target. You're right, he said quietly. You didn't ask for this. And if I could go back, if I could keep you out of my world, I would. But I can't. The moment I saved you, The moment I fell in love with you, you became part of this whether we like it or not. So what am I supposed to do? Just accept that I'll have bodyguards for the rest of my life? That I can't go anywhere without being watched? Until the threat is neutralized, yes. And when will that be? When you've killed everyone who might possibly be a danger. That's not living, Eunwoo. That's being a prisoner. You're alive, Eunwoo said, his voice harder than he intended. You're alive and safe and with me. That's all that matters. No, it's not. Lucy's voice broke. Being alive isn't the same as living. And I can't. I can't be in a relationship where I'm constantly monitored, constantly controlled, constantly reminded that loving you comes with a price. The word controlled hit Eunwoo like a physical blow. I'm not trying to control you, aren't you? You make decisions about my safety without consulting me. You assign guards without asking if I want them. You're planning to kill people, Eunwoo. To commit murder. Because of me. To protect you. I didn't ask you to. The silence that followed was deafening. Lucy was crying now, tears streaming down her beautiful face, and Eunwoo felt each one like a knife to the chest. What do you want me to do? He asked, his voice raw. Tell me what you want, Lucy, and I'll do it. Anything. Everything. I want you to trust me, Lucy said through her tears. I want you to believe that I'm strong enough to handle this. I survived months of bullying before you came along. I survived being alone in a foreign country. I'm not fragile, Eunwoo. I know you're not fragile. But you're human. And the people who want to hurt you are monsters. So protect me, Lucy said. But don't cage me. Teach me to defend myself. Include me in decisions about my own safety. Stop treating me like a possession to be guarded and start treating me like a partner. A partner. The word resonated with something deep in Eunwoo's chest. Okay, he said finally. Okay, you're right. I've been making decisions without you, and that's not fair. So tell me, what would make you feel safe without feeling caged? Lucy wiped her tears, thinking, I want self-defense training. Real training, not just basics. I want to know who's protecting me and why. And I want you to talk to me before you do anything drastic. No more surprise guards or secret plans. And the Choi family? Deal with them, Lucy said firmly. But don't make it a massacre. Don't start a war. Just make them understand I'm off limits. Eunwoo nodded slowly. It went against every instinct he had, but Lucy was right. She deserved to be part of these decisions. I'll talk to them first, he promised. Give them a chance to back off. But Lucy, if they refuse, if they make a move against you, then we'll deal with it together, Lucy interrupted. Together, Eunwoo. Not you alone carrying the weight of everything. Together. Eunwoo had been alone for so long he'd forgotten what together felt like. But looking at Lucy now, fierce and strong and refusing to be protected like a helpless damsel, he remembered. This was what mates did. They faced the darkness together. The next day, Eunwoo arranged a meeting with the head of the Choi family. Mr. Choi was an older vampire, traditional and ruthless. He smiled when Eunwoo entered the neutral meeting ground, but there was calculation in his eyes. Kong Eunwoo, he greeted. To what do I owe this unexpected pleasure? You've been making inquiries about someone under my protection, Eunwoo said without preamble. I'm here to ask you to stop. Ah, the human girl. Your pet. Mr. Choi's smile widened. Forgive me, but I heard she was more than that. A mate bond, perhaps. Eunwoo's control slipped for just a moment, his eyes flashing red. What Lucy is to me is none of your concern. What it is, you see. A vampire with a human mate is vulnerable, distracted, weakened. I'm giving you one chance, Eunwoo said, his voice dropping to a dangerous level. Stay away from her. Spread the word. Lucy Fisher is completely off limits. Anyone who touches her, looks at her wrong, even thinks about using her against me will face consequences they cannot imagine. Threats, Eunwoo? That's not very diplomatic. It's not a threat. It's a promise. Mr. Choi studied him for a long moment. Then he laughed. You really do love her. I can see it in your eyes. The great Kong Eunwoo, brought to his knees by a human girl. I'm not on my knees, Eunwoo said coldly. I'm giving you the courtesy of a warning. Take it or don't. But know this. If you come after her, I won't just kill you. I'll dismantle everything you've built. Your empire, your family, your legacy. I'll erase the Choi name from Seoul's history. That would start a war. Then we'll have a war. And you'll lose. The certainty in Eunwoo's voice must have convinced Mr. Choi because his smile finally faded. Very well, he said carefully. The girl is off limits. I'll spread the word. See that you do. As Eunwoo left, he felt the bond pulse with Lucy's curiosity. She was awake, wondering where he was. The connection brought a small smile to his face despite the tense meeting. He texted her, handled. No blood. Coming home soon. Her response was immediate. I'm proud of you. Be safe. 3 simple words that meant everything. True to his word, Eunwoo started including Lucy in security decisions. He introduced her to her guards, Jae and Suki, both trained fighters who reported directly to him. He showed her the security system in his penthouse, taught her how to use it, and most importantly, he listened when she had concerns or suggestions. I want to learn to fight, Lucy said one evening. I've already arranged it. Min-sik will train you personally. He's the best. Lucy raised an eyebrow. Your second in command is going to teach me self-defense? You asked to be included. Min-sik is the best teacher I know, unless you'd prefer someone else. No, that's actually perfect. Thank you. The training started the next week. Eunwoo watched the first session, unable to help himself, and was impressed by how quickly Lucy picked things up. She's a natural, Min-sik commented as Lucy successfully executed a throw. Quick reflexes, good instincts. She's strong, Eunwoo said, pride clear in his voice. She'd have to be, to handle you. Eunwoo couldn't argue with that. As weeks turned into months, something shifted between them. Lucy grew more confident, more comfortable in Eunwoo's world. She understood the danger but refused to let it control her. And slowly, the walls she'd built around her heart started to come down. I love you, she said one night, casual and easy, like it wasn't the first time she'd said it out loud. Eunwoo froze. What? Lucy looked up from her book, smiling. I said I love you. I've been thinking it for weeks now, but I wasn't sure if I was ready to say it. But I am. I love you, Kang Eunwoo. All of you. The vampire, the Mafia lord, the man who takes me to museums and makes me laugh. All of it. Eunwoo crossed the room in 2 strides and pulled her into his arms, burying his face in her hair. Say it again, he whispered. I love you. Again. I love you. I love you. I love you. Each repetition felt like a benediction, like absolution for every sin he'd ever committed. Lucy Fisher loved him. His mate, his everything, loved him back. I love you more than existence itself, Eunwoo said, pulling back to look at her face. More than immortality. More than anything in this world or the next. You are my heart, Lucy. The only good thing in centuries of darkness. Lucy reached up to touch his face, her thumb brushing across his cheekbone. You're not darkness anymore. You're my light too. Eunwoo kissed her then, pouring everything he felt into it. Love, devotion, gratitude, promise. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Lucy smiled. So what now, she asked. Now. Eunwoo smiled back. Now we live. Together. However you want. I want everything, Lucy said. I want dates and adventures and quiet nights at home. I want to finish school and figure out my career. I want to meet your friends. Really meet them. Not just as the human you're protecting. I want a life with you, Eunwoo. A real life. Then that's what we'll have, Eunwoo promised. All of it. Everything you want and more. 6 months later, Lucy graduated from university. Eunwoo sat in the audience, surrounded by his security team who were trying very hard to blend in with the other families. When Lucy's name was called, when she walked across that stage with her head high and her smile bright, Eunwoo felt pride unlike anything he'd ever experienced. This brilliant, strong, beautiful woman was his. And more importantly, he was hers. After the ceremony, Lucy ran to him, her cap askew and her gown billowing behind her. I did it, she laughed, throwing her arms around him. You did it, Eunwoo agreed, spinning her around. I'm so proud of you. Couldn't have done it without you. Well, I could have, but it would have been much harder and much less fun. Later, at the celebration dinner Eunwoo had arranged at the finest restaurant in Seoul, surrounded by Min-sik and a few friends Lucy had made, Eunwoo watched her laugh and talk and shine. This was everything he'd never known he wanted. Family, friends, connection, love. You look happy, Min-sik observed quietly. I am, Eunwoo admitted. For the first time in 2 centuries, I'm genuinely happy. She's good for you. Makes you more human. She makes me want to be better. To be worthy of her. You already are, you know. You've changed, Eunwoo. You're still dangerous, still powerful, but now there's softness. compassion. She brought that out in you. Eunwoo watched Lucy throw her head back laughing at something Suki said, and his dead heart felt full. She brought everything out in me, he said quietly. Everything I thought I'd lost. Everything I thought I could never have. That night, back at the penthouse, Lucy found Eunwoo on the balcony staring at the stars. What are you thinking about? She asked, sliding under his arm. The future, Eunwoo admitted. Our future. And what does it look like? Happy. Whatever happy looks like for you. That's what I want our future to be. Lucy was quiet for a moment. Then, I've been thinking about the bond. About what you said about forever. Eunwoo's heart rate picked up. And I think I want it. Not right now. I'm still young and there's so much I want to do. But someday, when I'm ready, I want forever with you, Eunwoo. You understand what that means? That you'd be choosing to tie yourself to me permanently? That you'd. I understand, Lucy interrupted. I understand all of it. The bond, the connection, the fact that we'd be linked for the rest of my life. And I'm choosing it. I'm choosing you. What about children? Eunwoo asked, voicing a concern he'd been afraid to mention. I can't give you children, Lucy. Vampires can't create life. Then we'll adopt. Or foster. Or maybe we'll just be the cool aunt and uncle to Minseek's eventual kids. Lucy smiled up at him. I want you, Eunwoo. However that looks. Whatever that means. I want the life we build together, not some fantasy of what life is supposed to look like. Eunwoo pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her forehead. You're sure? I'm sure. Are you? I've been sure since the moment you hugged me in that alley, Eunwoo said. I'll spend the rest of your life making sure you never regret choosing me. And I'll spend it making sure you never regret saving me. They stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, looking out at the city that had brought them together. Seoul stretched out below them, full of danger and darkness and possibilities. But standing here with Lucy, Eunwoo wasn't afraid of the darkness anymore. Because he'd found his light. And he'd protect it, cherish it, worship it for as long as they both existed. I love you, he whispered into her hair. I love you too, Lucy whispered back. And in that moment, Kang Eunwoo, vampire, mafia lord, creature of the night, was completely, utterly, perfectly happy. Epilogue, 1 year later. The wedding was small, intimate, perfect. Eunwoo had offered to give Lucy whatever she wanted. A huge ceremony, a destination wedding, anything. But she'd chosen this, a traditional Korean ceremony in a private hanok, attended only by their closest friends. Minseek served as Eunwoo's best man, grinning like he'd never seen his boss so nervous. You're shaking, he whispered. I'm not, Eunwoo whispered back. Your hands are literally trembling. She's the most important thing in my existence, and I'm about to promise her forever. Of course I'm nervous. When Lucy appeared, dressed in a beautiful hanbok that somehow made her blue eyes even more striking, Eunwoo forgot how to breathe. She was radiant, glowing, perfect, and she was his. The ceremony was a blur. Eunwoo heard himself saying the vows, heard Lucy saying hers, but all he could focus on was her smile, her eyes, the way her hand fit perfectly in his. I now pronounce you husband and wife, the officiant said, and Eunwoo didn't wait for permission to kiss his bride. The kiss was sweet, tender, full of promise. When they broke apart, Lucy was crying happy tears. We did it, she whispered. We did, Eunwoo agreed. You're stuck with me now. Good. I was planning on keeping you anyway. At the reception, Eunwoo gave a toast that made everyone laugh and cry. Lucy Fisher, Lucy Kong now, saved my life, he said, looking directly at his wife. Not in the way you might think. She didn't pull me from a burning building or take a bullet for me. She saved me by seeing past the monster to the man. By being brave enough to love someone like me. By teaching me that darkness doesn't have to be permanent. That even creatures like me can find light. He raised his glass. To my wife, my mate, my everything. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for being the most incredible person I've ever known. I will spend every day of forever trying to be worthy of you. Lucy stood, crossing to him and kissing him in front of everyone. You already are worthy, she said against his lips. You always have been. Later that night, alone in their bedroom, Lucy turned to Eunwoo with a mischievous smile. So, husband, what now? Eunwoo pulled her close, marveling at the fact that she was his wife now. Officially, eternally his. Now, he said, kissing her forehead, her cheeks, her lips, we live happily ever after. That sounds perfect, Lucy sighed, melting into his embrace. And it was because Lucy had taught Eunwoo something he'd never believed in before. Love could conquer darkness. Love could heal wounds. Love could make even a vampire's dead heart beat again. Together, they'd face whatever came next, the challenges, the dangers, the beautiful everyday moments that make up a life. Together, they were unstoppable. Together, they were home. The end. Thank you so much for watching this story. Drop a comment and let me know. Did you cry? Are you Team Eunwoo forever now? What was your favorite moment? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell because I have so many more stories coming your way. Where should Lucy and Eunwoo go on their honeymoon? Let me know in the comments. Love you all. Red heart, asterisk asterisk.